and welcome to the Arithmatrix. I'm your disembodied host, and today we're talking about functions. So, pretty important, what is a function? A function, at least the mathematical kind, is something that gives you y when you put in x. And a very specific clause is that no x can output two y's. So that means that each input, aka the x value, should only have one output, aka the y value. However, two x values can output the same y values. It's easier to explain with an example, and to do that, we will use the function x squared. So as we see here, if we plug in x equals 1 as well as x equals -1 into the function, we get the same y value back, 1. However, if we just plug in x equals 1, we will not get two y values, such as 1 and 3. Taking a look at the graph, we see very clearly that while there are two x's that have the same y value, there are no two x's that have two y values. This is what the vertical line test is getting at. The vertical line test is a way to test if a graph is a function. If you pass a vertical line through the graph, it should only touch it once. All it's really testing is whether or not one x has more than one y. It sounds fancy, but it's really just a test for the basic definition of a function. Then there's something called function notation. All it is just swapping the y in an equation for f of x. So instead of saying y equals x squared, you say f of x equals x squared. The f represents the function and the x represents the input. Just as a quick note, x could be any letter. It could be a, it could be z, it could be theta, it doesn't matter. It just has to be the input value. F of x is the same thing as y, but writing it this way becomes really helpful in branches like calculus, where there's more letters, and it helps to keep track of them. As you can see here, this is how plugging something in would look. Now onto the final part of today's video, which is domain and range. These also come into play in calculus, so it's important to have a solid understanding of them. So domain is essentially just all possible x values for a function, and what that means is that they have a corresponding y value. So anything that you could plug into the function and you get an output like 2 falls under a function's domain. Range is all possible y values, aka the complete set of the outputs of a function. If we take a look at the graph x squared, we see that the domain is -infinity to infinity, which just means that for every possible x value on the coordinate grid, there is a y value. The range, however, is from 0 to infinity, because you'll never get a y value that is lower than 0. If we think about it, this makes sense. X is being squared, and any number squared will result in a positive number. Therefore, y could never be less than 0. If you're confused on what I mean when I say infinity or -infinity, or you're confused on how this is written and why there's a square bracket in front of 0, this is called interval notation, and I have a video on it coming soon. Otherwise, you can just type interval notation into Google and 10,000 videos will come up. But yeah, that is what a function is. Now time for a practice question. Figure out which of these is the function. I'll give you a couple seconds to pause and figure it out. Okay, the answer is D. The first three just don't pass the vertical line test. C was a bit of a trick question because it is a vertical line, but it also fails the vertical line test because it is a vertical line. Okay, thank you for watching. Remember to eat, exercise, stay hydrated, and as always, have fun. Bye!